3 seconds on the clock. Up. In! It's in! It's in! Lindsey Zurbrugg puts the Crimson Tide up 50-48 with 0.7 seconds left.
When a rare neurological disorder paralyzed 13-year-old Lindsey Zurbrugg from the waist down, she found the strength to teach herself how to dribble a basketball in a wheelchair and eventually reach for her gold medal dreams. She joined our Kelvin Washington from Colorado Springs, where she was training for the Paris Paralympics, to share the story of her athletic journey.
Welcome basketball phenom Lindsey Zurbrugg. Lindsey, it is great having you on. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, and I can already tell the energy. I'm glad you got some of that. I love it. Let's talk about just you growing up. What was it like for you? What were you into? What were the sports maybe you were playing as a young girl?
Oh, I was anything that had a ball, I was into. So I grew up on a little Christmas tree farm outside of Portland, Oregon, with a brother, and my mom homeschooled both of us. So very right off the bat, just loving family, always around them. But I knew that I wanted to be an athlete of some sorts. And we had a glow-in-the-dark basketball, and I had a hoop outside my house, and I would just be shooting out there till way into the night, where all I could see was the basketball and like a little bit of the hoop. And I fell in love with the sport there. So
you're growing up, you're playing sports, you're playing around like a lot of kids, and then a tragedy happens, a rare neurological disorder. Can you tell me about that, what happened and how you felt at the time, and then really about your story of perseverance?
When I was 13 years old, I was perfectly able-bodied. I was doing everything a normal kid does. I was what I would call normal. I went to my first ever able-bodied basketball camp, and it was probably day 3 or 4 of the camp. And we're talking, I'm with high school girls, barely scrapping 5 feet tall. I'm a freshman, and just we're kind of getting beat up on. And we're doing so much basketball that all of us are very sore. So what we ended up doing is the coach says, hey, let's do some yoga and just stretch out and get our bodies loose for the next session. Well, then we came to the move downward dog, and it said, like, push your heels into the ground. So I did, and I felt this sharp pain go up through my back. And then slowly over the next 36 hours, I gradually became more and more paralyzed until I remember waking up one morning and like, man, I can't stand up. So I like grabbed my leg and threw it, and it hit the ground, but I couldn't feel it. And I was like, oh no, that's not good. So I called my mom, and she's like, stand up. I was like, I can't. So she said, what do you mean you can't? And basically I went to the hospital, and long story short, I had something called a tethered cord. So when you're a baby developing in utero, your spinal cord normally attaches to your L1 vertebrae, which is kind of at your hip level. Mine attached to L2-3, so like a little bit farther down. And I didn't snap it when I did the yoga stretch. I just overstretched it, and the freak accident just onset paralysis.
While it did change your life, you were able to find a way to get back into something you love, which was basketball. Tell us how that journey went and how it led you to go to Alabama and have a whole lot of success there.
Yes. So when I was in the hospital rehabbing from my newfound paralysis, my recreational nurse was actually the head coach of a juniors wheelchair basketball team in Portland. And she said, hey, I heard you play basketball. Come out and play with us. And I was kind of hesitant at first because I've never heard of wheelchair basketball. None of my family had. My mom pushed me to try it. And the second I got into a basketball chair, I started running into people, and I felt fast and agile again. I fell in love with it. And from there, I knew I wanted to be a basketball player, like a wheelchair basketball player. So I started working really hard. I ended up playing for the Seattle Juniors for a bit, and then ultimately got recruited to go to the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, where I spent 5 years. I got a degree, continued in basketball, and then that led me to get my master's degree in Alabama, where I continued playing basketball and ended up winning 2 national championships.
That is it! The Crimson Tide are national champions!
All of this being around Team USA and aspiring for that, and actually making the team since 2017.
There's a whole lot of accolades, and we don't have a lot of time, but I will say, I mean, in 2022, big game, national championship game, you hit a game winner there. The next season, you're the MVP. I mean, you went on to become clearly very, very good at this, so much so that you get to go to Tokyo, where I am slightly jealous that you go there for the Paralympics. And how did you all fare there in Tokyo?
Zurbrugg rattles in the 3-ball.
Connects from NBA range, puts the U.S. within 3. Beautiful hit from Lindsey Zurbrugg.
Honestly, for a team that was told that we weren't going to medal, we went out there and we got bronze, and we proved a lot of haters wrong. We had such a young squad of, I think we might have been like an average age of 22 years old. And I was one of the more veteran people at like 22, 23. So regarding everything, one of my most favorite experiences ever. And I think we killed it.
Zurbrugg, they left her, and she gets the shooter's touch.
That's a pretty finish from Zurbrugg.
Well, and being a part of that, you got to meet some cool people, Billie Jean King. And I know the experience was a little different because it was during COVID, but tell me about just that time being there, the other athletes, being in another city, another country. What was that like, that experience for you?
I truly don't know much different than what a Paralympics should feel like, because I've truly have only had the COVID experience. But like in a day, I would wake up, get ready, like, okay, I have a game later. And then as soon as I woke up, I would go spit in a cup for my COVID test. And then we'd go to the dining hall and you'd be sitting right next to your teammate, but they would have these giant plastic shields right in front of you so you didn't spread COVID while you were eating. It was a very locked down, muted experience, especially since there were not fans in the stands.
And so now you carry this into Paris. You learned, you had your time in Tokyo, you learned from that experience. Now you're even more so a veteran. What are you looking forward to this time around?
I think a lot of us are going to have that like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed look of, this is so amazing. This is such a different experience than Tokyo.
Listen, it's a lot of working out to be as great as you are. We got to see the guns. Can we see the guns, please? That's number one. So can we see the guns? Don't act like you don't want to show the gun. Look at that. All right, I'm gonna do some. Yeah, I'm gonna do some lifting on my way home today. I got one in the car. Don't ask. Don't ask. And then lastly, what's this love of food on your Instagram page? You'd barely know you were a Paralympian because there's so much food content on your page.
Man, I love food so much. I love everything about food. I truly don't think there is a bad food. And I'm actually in school right now to become a dietitian. I graduated with my master's degree in food nutrition, and I'm currently in my dietetic internship. And then as soon as I get that done, I'm going to go become a registered dietitian. But I think food's just a great thing. I mean, let's be honest, the best conversations are always around the dinner table or eating out with friends or going and grabbing a coffee. Like, food bonds people together because it's something that everybody has in common. Everybody eats.
Better look out, world, because we're coming and we're ready.
Lindsey Zurbrugg, we'll be rooting for you and your team in Paris. Do very well, and thank you for joining us.
Yep, thank you. Go USA.
Lisa, back to you.
You will be able to catch Lindsey in action this Friday when Team USA competes against Germany in women's wheelchair basketball.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. For more stories in your communities, click the subscribe button right here. You can also download our app or watch us on TV for the latest news and weather updates every 10 minutes and more. We'll see you then.